Hi everyone and welcome to Protocol 36. And in today's video we will be discussing why Spectacular Spider-Man and Insomniac Spider-Man sided with Miguel O'Hara in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now before we get started, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the film yet, please do so and then come back to the video. Trust me, you will not regret it. And if you have seen the film, at any point you enjoy this video, I really appreciate if you could drop a like, as that would really help out the channel. Thank you. Now let's get on to the video. Now Across the Spider-Verse has quickly become one of the most beloved Spider-Man movies, rightfully so, with its amazing animation, the plot, the characters, everything about it is just top notch. However, there were a few things that people did have a problem with, or at least questioned when it came to the film. One of the few things is of course the specific cameos that were used for this film. What I mean by this is, why did certain characters or certain versions of Spider-Man side with Miguel O'Hara? As we know in the film, Miguel is one of the people who monitors the multiverse, specifically in universes that has spider characters in it, and he basically makes sure that a canon event does not get disrupted. Now a canon event is something that must happen in different universes, basically an ongoing pattern that every, if not most, universes have, and if that gets disrupted by any means, then it could potentially mean that that universe could get destroyed. For example, when it came to Miguel O'Hara, he went into a universe where his variant died and he left behind a daughter, and the Miguel that we know basically went to that universe, raised his variant's daughter, which disrupted a canon event because she is supposed to grow up fatherless. However, because Miguel disrupted that and basically replaced this variant, it basically caused that universe that she's from to die. And from obviously his mentality is that every universe, every timeline has a certain pattern that must be followed. Like of course the spider bite, death of a close one like Uncle Ben for example, as well as a death of a police captain. Many things obviously that happen in the 616 comics, which is why he says event SAM90 when talking about the death of George Stacy, because it actually happened in Amazing Spider-Man issue 90. However, the thing is, when it comes to Miles Morales, is the fact that his dad is about to be captain, and Miles saw his death in the future. He wants to try and prevent that as soon as possible. However, the thing is, as Miguel said, it's a canon event, and even though he could save him, it would mean billions if not trillions of people will die, including him anyway. So Miguel is basically saying that he's supposed to die regardless. Now obviously whether he's going to die or not in Beyond the Spider-Verse, we're gonna have to wait and see. Obviously, as the film points out, he's not entirely correct. However, I'll talk about that in my Everything We Know About Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse video, so be sure to watch that after this one. But onto Insomniac and Spectacular Spider-Man. Now of course those two are some of the most beloved adaptations of Spider-Man period. Heck, Spectacular himself is considered to be the best one outside of the 616 comics, which I personally agree with. But one of the things that people have an issue with, or even a few people even saying that it's character assassination, is the fact that they would side with Miguel and not Miles. The thing is, I don't think it's outside of their characters as many people try and make it out to be. For Spectacular's case, we actually got a reason from Josh Keaton, who is the voice of Spectacular Spider-Man himself, which he talks about in a TikTok live stream. And he basically talks about how the reason why he sides with Miguel is because of the fact that after his version of George Stacy died, which we saw a very brief glimpse of in Across the Spider-Verse, it's a very blink and you miss a moment, but we do see that version of George Stacy basically die in Spectacular Spider-Man's arm, and in that animation as well. He looks a little bit different, like the grey hair is not there, but it is supposed to be that same version. But after that event, Peter obviously blames himself like he always does, causing him to basically be very upset the fact that he couldn't save George Stacy, especially when this version of Spider-Man is very much in love with Gwen, who is obviously the daughter of George Stacy, so that just makes him even more upset. The fact that he caused someone's father to die, especially, you know, the love of his life's father to die on his watch. Miguel basically persuades him that it's actually for a bigger cause, that he was supposed to die, and there's nothing that Peter could have done about it, so he kind of just accepts that, because that kind of helps deal with the pain, as well as the fact that he is still young, as we see him in Across the Spider-Verse. Obviously in the show when we last saw him, he was 16 turning 17, so assuming the fact that George Stacy dies in season 3, assuming we got a season 3 or even season 4, then Peter would have been about 17 to 18 years old when he died, so still a very young and impressionable Spider-Man. So when a very adult experienced Spider-Man who's from the future tells him this, it's basically much easier for him to deal with that, and in my opinion that makes perfect sense. You know, Miguel isn't saying to never try and save anyone, he's basically saying regardless of what we do, someone is going to die eventually. essentially, and that is basically the unfortunate truth of being Spider-Man. People are going to die in your watch. You can try and save them, as you should try and save them, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful in saving everyone. And it's kind of why Spectacular Spider-Man himself talks to Miles directly and tells him that it is hard, but it's the truth. And he even mentions that the fact that maybe in Beyond the Spider-Verse, and this is speculation on his part, it's not been confirmed or anything like that, but maybe in Beyond the Spider-Verse that he might even go through his own arc in that film, that he might even try and help out Miles. And I hope that's the case. I think that would be pretty sick, even though obviously it's not his movie. It would be sick to have that little arc. But yeah, this is when it comes to Spectacular Spider-Man. For Insomniac Spider-Man, I think it's much more clear-cut. He agrees because of the events of the first game. When Aunt May was dying, he had the choice between saving her or saving the entirety of New York. He had a cure, but he didn't have enough to save everyone, and he only had one that could only save May if he used the entire thing. However, he couldn't do that, and in Aunt May's dying moment, he basically has a heart-to-heart with her. He even tells her that he doesn't know what he has to do, but deep down he does. And even though he's very, very close in giving her the entire cure, he ultimately chooses not to, because with great power, there must also come great responsibility. Now, facing that choice, Peter chooses the greater good over Aunt May, because he had no choice, as well as Aunt May basically giving him consent, saying that to let her die. Even though he doesn't want her to die, he had no choice but to, which once again is the whole cost of being Spider-Man. Unfortunately, when you don't want to, especially when it comes to the people you love, they're going to either get hurt or be killed. And I think it's one of the many things that many people love about Spider-Man, the fact that he has those choices, and regardless, it's a lose-lose for him. But anyway, he goes through it and becomes a better person because of it, as well as he never gives up. He might quit every now and then, but even then, he goes back and wears the suit, and that's kind of the beauty of Spider-Man. But obviously, when it comes to the Spider-Verse films, I think they're gonna tackle that idea, if that is actually Spider-Man or not, or whether or not he should try and save everyone regardless, even if it causes people to die. But that is the predicament Miles is facing right now. Obviously, they're not siding with Miguel in any malicious intent. It's just the fact that they agree with the whole canon of it. You know, it's kind of a way for them to deal with it because it makes sense, as well as the fact that Miles, in their eyes, could potentially destroy an entire universe, and they're trying to prevent that as well. Even though they want to save Jefferson, they knew ultimately they couldn't if it meant trillions of people dying. But then again, we're gonna have to wait and see next year when the third movie comes out. However, what about you guys? Do you think those are the reasons why Spectacular Spider-Man and Insomniac Spider-Man sided with Miguel in Across the Spider-Verse? Or do you think there's a different reason? Let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. If you enjoyed this video, please like. I want more, subscribe. To begin, Protocol 36.